Welcome to Motivate to Millions podcast. I am your host, Quentin Baker, and today we have our very first interview with a very phenomenal guy, Mr. Joshua Burney. Happens to be originally from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, graduated from East Carolina University, a speaker, coach, and business owner. Has won over 60 awards for public speaking, providing training, sales, customer service, and leadership communication, and an owner of no other than Brownstone Car Rental. I invite and introduce to you Mr. Joshua Burney.
Hello. Good afternoon. Good morning to you.
Good morning. One of the things we're going to go into is our first segment, which is It's Debatable. Recently, it's been a controversial topic with the LA Lakers that the Lakers has added Bronny James, which is LeBron James' son. A lot of people think that's not a good idea from a business perspective and in other ways. What are your thoughts? I mean, from business and personal, what are your thoughts on that?
It's real simple, right? He's a dad who's in a position to provide an opportunity for his son. So even if people feel like he's not ready or he wasn't worth it, first consider LeBron James is his dad. So he's going to do everything in his power to ensure that his son succeeds. So, hey, if I can go to the owners, go to the agent and say, hey, this is what we're looking to do. Is it possible for that to happen? And they made it happen. Now, people talk about his development, and I'd say the same thing. It's like one that's on two people. That's on the team to develop him to become a better player. That way he gets his playing time and earns his money and builds his reputation. But also he has to take ownership of that himself in the off season. And he has to benefit because his dad is right there. True. Who knows what it means to take care of your body, to work out in the off season. So his development actually may accelerate based off of those two factors. So I think it was a great move because I would do it. Like I'm going to do it. My son comes up, being a business owner, my son comes up. If you think that I'm not going to provide my son with an opportunity to be in the business, if he wants to, and to go as far as he can, I'm going to do everything in my power to be able to do so. So from a dad perspective, I mean, I think it was fantastic. From a normal basketball perspective, I mean, honestly, one, I don't care because I don't play. I don't have no stake in the game. But a lot of great players have come from the back of the pack. That doesn't just because that's where you start. I mean, it doesn't mean that's how he's going to finish. And again, he has a head start that a lot of people don't have. So I'm for the move. Okay, I'm for the move. Now, do I think now they're going to be some great team? No, I mean they might still. I think with JJ being the head coach, they're gonna anything in the playoffs is going to be a win for them. If they can win a round or two, that'd be even better. But really, I think he'll be fine. And he might not get much playing time just because he's going to be developing like any rookie, unless he comes in like high draft, or maybe they see something during practice and training camp that says, okay, maybe this dude really does need to get some playing time. Well, now he has the opportunity. He can't. His dad did his job. His agent did his job. His mom did his job. Now it's time for Bronny to really step up and say, what type of basketball basketball player and man do I want to be? And let me take the steps necessary to do that, because you can't ask for a better layup than that. What alley than that?
Nah, you can't. You can't. And I think that, in the midst of his development, I think he's going to surprise people in a way that we're not expecting, because his motivation. What son doesn't want to be like his dad, especially when his dad has accomplished some of the things he has in basketball and in business, but especially in basketball.
And that's a great point, just to bring up that again, he has the head start, and now his dad can teach him the ropes. Like, he doesn't have to go it alone, or it doesn't just have to be him and his agent. His dad is saying, can show him, hey, this is how you're going to operate as a rookie. hey, this is how you can maximize your opportunity here in the NBA outside of the NBA, what sponsorships. And mind you, he has NIL deals. So he already came in with money in his pocket, with the business mindset to be able to use what he have in front of him to make money from it. So that's like even better. He doesn't have that. Well, I gotta go and make money to be able to do
Right.
this. He doesn't have that. His dad's a billionaire. He's taking care of the family. Now it's just I can strictly focus on playing basketball, and that's freeing.
Yeah. Man, what if we could literally just do if we grew up in an environment where it was just that simple, where you don't have to focus on any external things and you could just zone into what you do.
That's what we in it for, to build. And
Yeah.
if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. That's what my mom always said.
True. Absolutely. Well, I mean, that was a good perspective. I had been like toying with it, but I mean, also when you said that, my mind I would do the same thing. It's a no-brainer.
People just mad they can't do it. Simple as that. They just mad that they can't give their son or their daughter an opportunity, or they're mad that somebody never gave them that opportunity. So you
Right.
can't be mad that he's putting his son in position, because that's the whole goal we all want. If you have kids and if you love your kids and want them to see them doing well and ultimately, hopefully better than you, I mean, the only people that's hating is haters.
Yeah. Essentially, Coach Prime had a lot of controversy over the couple years, especially with his sons playing and him being the coach. So, one thing he says, people gonna be people, but it don't stop the show.
Mm-mm. And look, and here's something I say: what safer place to be than with your dad?
Absolutely.
Like Coach Prime, if his sons were in other football programs, there's just a lot that he would have to think about, and the kids have to think about. Oh, my dad's not here, or I don't have that covering, I don't have that protection, I don't have somebody in my corner. Yeah, you'll have people, but somebody that for a fact since you was birth who had it, like that's a safe place to be. Their strengths, their weaknesses. Train them until you can't train them.
Right.
That's the next phase. Just be with them until you can't, because we know at some point in time, I think Coach Prime talked about, his son's going into the NFL. Will he take an NFL job? He's like, well, really, my goal is not to be in the NFL. So he knows he's got to let his sons go eventually, but I'm gonna do everything in my power to get you there. Yeah, I'm doing that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, look, that was a good topic. I mean, I wish that we could just dive further into that one, but I'm gonna go into our questions.
Okay.
But can you tell us a little bit about your background and what inspired you to start a business, especially the particular business that you're in?
So it really starts. So here, for me to do it, I have to give the full story.
I got you.
And so when it comes to just my background, originally I'm from Winston-Salem. I grew up in a single parent home. My dad lived 15 minutes down the road. I probably saw him maybe once every 8 years, if that. We did not have a relationship, but that didn't stop us. I mean, thank God for God stepping in and putting people in my life along the way. But the thing that really set me off was I was always a person who loved to interact with people and loved to be on stage. So when I early on, elementary, middle school, I was always in talent shows and plays, and that just kept going. I used to actually cry on stage. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people, I used to cry as soon as I touched the stage. Like I can vividly remember times in which that happened. And I remember specifically, I was in a talent show in 5th grade. Me and my friends got together and decided to sing NSYNC, Tearing Up My Heart, by the way. Shout out to NSYNC for that. And I was assigned to sing the second verse, and I forgot the words when I went on stage. And the reason why I forgot the words is not because I didn't know the song. I thoroughly loved the song. It was just when I saw that crowd, and if you've ever been on stage, you'll know that you can't really see the audience too well. Like you can hear the cheers, you can hear the shouts and the yells, but you can't see them. And when I stepped out, that's what threw me off. And I just froze. I forgot the words. And I remember going home that night, and I just told myself never again was that going to happen to me. And moving forward, I intentionally put myself to be in front of people. So I doubled down. I went and was a part of more talent shows. I started hosting talent shows. I started talking to as many people as I could. Mind you, I'm 10 years old going into middle school. Then going to high school, did the same thing. When I went to East Carolina, down in Greenville, North Carolina, it was for me. I got a job early on campus. I always been a hard worker, and I got a job. I was usher first, then I became a student manager within 6 months. And then that progressed to where I started being in organizations on campus. I started being, I ended up being involved in a Black Student Union, moved up the ranks from there, became president. During my presidency, we won Student Org of the Year, had over 700 volunteer hours and so much more. Became an orientation facilitator, speaking to 800, 900 people every 2 weeks for 2 summers. So I was speaking to 120 people a week. And I graduated with my English degree, but during this time I also started rapping. So it was like, oh, okay, he's like a public speaking rapper with an English degree. And but at that time when I graduated, I have an English degree, but I didn't use it in the fashion of which I traditionally thought that I would. And I was like, man, I just need a job. So I went to starting applying for jobs, and I ended up working at one of the larger rental car companies in the world. Had a fantastic time there. Was there for several years. Ended up managing a branch. Had one of the highest performing branches in the area. Had the highest customer service scores consecutively 3 months in a row. There's a lot of growth from the fleet to the revenue year to date. So it was a fantastic time. Didn't think nothing about it. And then things progressed, and I kept doing my public speaking, started coaching people from middle school students all the way up to professional athletes. Got involved with Toastmasters, where I became the youngest president of the local chapter at 26. Then I started doing competitions. I ended up winning over 60 awards for public speaking, became top 5 in North Carolina for public speaking, number 1 entire east of Raleigh for impromptu speaking. And that was just my way to give back on something that I love. And so I started working other places, worked at a retail cellular store, had a fantastic time there, got promoted within 6 months, had the highest performing branch. We had the highest customer service scores since I got there. And we did over $1.25 million one time. And it was a fantastic time. And at that point in time, I always wanted to be in business. Now, throughout me getting jobs, throughout me doing all this stuff, I always wanted to be in business. I saw my mom have a business. I saw my friends try to have businesses. And so it was just something in me. I said, okay, this is something I really feel like I can do. And so I started that with the public speaking side, where I was coaching individuals and providing the trainings. And then one day, it was maybe like September, October of 2019, we'll call it. And I can't tell you specifically what happened, but I just remember like just doing some research, and I was like, this rental car stuff at this juncture of life, and where the industry was going and with what social media was doing, I said, I think I can do this. And I remember talking to my wife about it, and I said, look, this is what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to start a car rental business. I actually printed off. This is why you should, if you ever get the chance, if you're working somewhere and you're doing really well, print those numbers off and save that stuff. If you have accolades, if you got any type of recognition, save that stuff. And I told myself, I'm saving this information just down the line, because that way I have proof to show that I did what I'm talking about. And I pulled out the numbers. I pulled out my numbers for my time there, and I said, here's what I did. Here's why I think I can do it again. And she said, okay, let's start. And like a foolish man, I did not start, to be honest about it. That probably would have put me around November. And every morning, like, this is one of the things that's so important to me is my relationship with God. I do believe that Jesus died on the cross for my sins. So God, the Father of Jesus. All right. So let me make that clear distinction. No disrespect to nobody else, but this is just what I believe. And I knew that it was going to be important, not only just for my entire life, but for my business. And man, I remember waking up every morning. I was dragging my feet, and every morning God would say, Joshua, start the rental. Next day, wake up, Joshua, start the rental. Next day, Joshua, start the rental. And this kept going. And then right at the end of the month, I said, you know what? let me just get started. And so we had one of our personal vehicles and we set a goal for that month. I believe it's like $500. I said, I want to make $500 just this month to start off. And we end up doing, it was a great month. We ended up doing $800. Didn't expect that. I was like, whoa, okay, I'll take this any day. Made over $800. Then we added a car. And then at that point in time, man, things just progressed to where we started adding more and more vehicles, telling people about what we were doing, and people really enjoyed it. Not only just being able to serve the community, but to provide an opportunity for people to turn their liabilities into assets. And it just has been growing at this point in time. And now we have been in our third location for a year and a half. We don't have three locations, but we've been in three different buildings. The first one actually burned down. The second one, we were able to move on Arlington. And then we were able to get this building that we're in now. And it's been a fantastic experience. And it's even beyond where we are. It's ultimately like what our goal was. And so when I first had the initial thoughts of starting Brownstone Car Rental, it was all about, we're going to grow to be one of the largest rental car companies on the East Coast. That was my number one goal.
Yep.
And with that in mind, we've been able to build it out and we've been able to have the success. And so far, we've had over 400 5-star reviews, over 2,000 bookings, constantly growing the fleet. People are constantly learning about us and experiencing what Brownstone has to offer versus our competitors. And it's been a fantastic journey.
Man, I know. I remember when you first started, just to see it now, man, you just, wow. You know, one of the things you said that kind of got me was like, I think we all have that moment where it's like, we keep dragging our feet. Even if God is telling us to do something, it's like that fear. And what was the, like, that aha moment where you said, I'm going to be obedient and I'm going to pursue this venture. I'm all in, like, what was that moment? Was it just one morning where you just, all right, I'm not going to run anymore from this. I'm going to go forward.
It was just one of the mornings. I heard it again. Joshua started that rental. And I said, you know what, Joshua, if you don't start this rental, you're going to be a fool. So let me just start it. It's no more than that. It was just, I can't tell you what morning it was, but one of the mornings I heard it. I said, Joshua, just start it. Because if you don't start it, you're going to be mad at yourself because you just don't know. Like if looking back now, if I would not have started, I would have been sick with life. I would probably be like, I can't imagine where I would be if I didn't listen. And that's what I was reading in the Bible. Jesus talks about that in the Bible, that the lady said, well, she said, well, blessed is your mother. Jesus was talking and giving a lesson. The lady said, well, blessed is your mom. Blessed is the mother of the person who birthed Jesus. And Jesus' response was, no, blessed is the person who hears the word of God and obeys it. And I had to obey that. Joshua, you better start the rental. And I didn't see what was coming. Now, you just don't see it. You don't know. You're only in the moment. You're only in that second, in the present. But if I could now, 3 years later, oh man, you couldn't change my mind for nothing.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess you get to a place in life where you don't want to live life and you get to the end of your life and you see the door. That's what could have been your life, but you let fear get in the way. So much props to you, man. And also I want to point out something to the audience. Like, you just helped me too, because I've been keeping record, but I'm going to get more organized with sales, like keeping a track record of your performance so that you can literally have data to back it up. I think that was just phenomenal. Like, that's very important. I think a lot of people miss that. We do these jobs, we have high performance, but then we don't have the data to back it up.
Look, a documentation beats everything. And what I can show you is always more powerful than what I can tell you. And so even if I had meetings with partners and stuff, I pull out those numbers. Because if people don't know you and they don't understand your journey, Okay, you don't have to understand what I'm saying. Here's the documentation to show you that I actually did exactly what I'm telling you that I did. And what can you argue against documentation? You can argue against my opinion and you can argue against my fact if I don't have documentation to back it up. But you can't argue against the paperwork that shows you this is what I did during this time. So I would tell anybody like don't disrespect yourself like that.
Mm,
Like we are valuable when we are being valuable. You know, if we're putting forth effort and we show that it's producing something and producing something of quality, yeah, you have to keep that. And more importantly, man, a lot of times when I was feeling down, even in Brownstone, I would be feeling down. I was like, man, like this is tough. Like, can I really, really do this? I would pull that stuff out as a reminder to myself, Joshua, this is something you did before. You've been here. You've been in this
hmm.
position. Here's the evidence. And sometimes you have to encourage yourself.
Yes, you do. Even being transparent right now, this week was one of the toughest weeks in sales. But in last month, I couldn't understand. I was like, I took a short vacation, and I did better. I was like, it's just how sales go. But nevertheless, going back made me realize if I did it then, I can do it again, and I can probably do it even better.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was really good. It just stuck out to me. But the next question I had for you was, can you talk about a key strategy that significantly boosted your business growth? Like that thing that you once you turn that switch, it was like, okay, I know you said you exceeded even your first goal, but what was that thing that just turned the ignition for you and just took your business to another level?
Getting better at the things that I'm doing.
Mhm.
Like I think so often I used to try to find new ways, new things to implement. And sometimes the old ways are just they just work. So when so when you ask, what key strategy that kind of took my business to the next level. All right, so I'll say it this way. So from a strategy perspective, one of the things that I did was I remember I was building relationships with mechanic shop vendors,
Mhm.
and I was going into these mechanic shops. And I was just sitting here and look, and I would say, it always trips me out that people are sitting here just waiting for their cars to be worked on. They already have a need because their vehicle is down. So I know they have a car and they're already just sitting in the place while their car is being worked at, or they have to be their car has to be in the shop for X amount of days. So instead of focusing on insurance rentals or retail rentals, people just going just cause on vacation or trips or whatever the case may be. I say, you know what, you guys, let's focus on the mechanic shops. It's already a need. I don't have to work too hard. It's already a need. And that was a key strategy that took my business to the next level because now I have a very specific market that I can target that isn't flooded and it's produced us the results. And that has been a very, very powerful move for us because those customers, again, they already in need of another vehicle while their car is man down. Um, they're more likely already qualified because they already have a vehicle. Uh,
Mhm.
and the important thing is, man, people just can't let their life stop. Like you still have to go to work, you still have to run errands. And one of the things that I truly love about this business is that it's helped me better understand the community and the world around me. Is that people need transportation. I used to ride the city bus. Okay. I used to ride the city bus, the Winston-Salem Transit Authority. You got to take two buses, just three buses, probably just to get to the mall. So
Ooh.
it's like I know what it's like to walk. I know what it's like to ride the bike. There's nothing like having a vehicle. It's
Mhm.
not even compared. Even if you have a bike, it's not a car. There's nothing like being able to get into the car and go. And that's empowering to people. So again, when we looked at our strategy, how can we empower these people at mechanic shops? Oh, well, let's target them. How did we do that? Well, we looked at certain things, certain qualifications, certain offers for that business segment, and it's been fantastic. To the operational standpoint of it, like what really helps my business is working excellent at the things we do. I
Mhm.
don't have to add anything new. Like, yes, there's going to be a growth perspective, so you do have to add certain things. But from an operational standpoint, what are you doing well, and can you maintain that level of excellence? And that was a key thing for us. And it's something as simple as having the cars washed a very specific way. Why? Because you get in your car, there's only going to be a certain amount of things you look at because you've gone blind eye to a lot. But when a customer gets into one of our cars, they see everything that we missed. So how can we put forth excellence in our cars? That way, when the customer gets in, they say, "Man, this experience has been great. The customer service was great. The process was great. But now the nail on the coffin is this car is great." And we had to look at our operations to say, okay, what are we doing well? Now, how can we make that stuff excellent? And can we maintain that level of excellence for how long? Yeah, and it's been working for us.
Yeah, man, that's key. I love that. Just and you made it so simple, and to the point where also you don't want people to just give you a review, but you want to earn a review.
Hmm.
So
You got
there's
to
a
earn that
reason.
thing.
Some people just want you to, hey, give me a 5-star review.
Why? Did you have a 5-star? Did you have a 5-star experience from beginning to end? And that's not easy to do. You have to break down every step of the process,
Yeah.
and you have to look at it, and you have to go through it yourself. Treat yourself like your customer.
Mm,
Would you buy from you? Would you operate from you? Maybe the first half of your interaction is great, but maybe the second half of your interaction is not. Well, now you need to go back in and you need to look at what do you need to change in your second half of your interactions to improve. That way you get a full experience. So when you go into that saying, can I get that? Here's an email, or hey, can you leave a review? Now they're more inclined to do it because you
mm,
earned it throughout the entire interaction.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I recently went to Atlanta and I was like, we had to, of course, we did Uber
Hmm.
just because of traffic. And I'm like, there was just some drivers I couldn't give a 5-star review. I
It's
couldn't.
true.
I mean, the car when I get in it, I really it's not clean, Then versus the other the other Uber driver, we get to the airport, helps us with our bags, opens the door for us. I mean, customer service was just A to Z.
Hmm.
He earned that. But the other people, I just couldn't. I used to just give a 5-star review, and now I think about it more consciously.
I think you also got to look at it like this. If I give somebody a 5-star review and they didn't earn a 5-star review, someone else is going to read my review that was false and have a false expectation of what occurs. And now they could have a worse experience because
Yeah.
it takes another level of a person to be able to get a lot of positive reviews and not regress in what they're doing.
I like that because that puts a almost a level of responsibility on us as us being able to go through the process and being honest with our review because for some people this is all they have to go off of. I mean, I even
Mhm.
remember an experience where I had a terrible experience with a hotel that we stayed at this particular brand all the time, but in this particular city, this one was the worst experience I ever had. Checked in and checked out within 10 to 15 minutes.
Mhm.
So it made me more conscious. Like every time we stay somewhere now, I'm looking at the reviews and I'm hoping to God that these are honest reviews. So it just sheds even the more light on your point.
Yeah. It's yeah, that's all I can say.
um, One of the other things is as we go into our next question, on the journey to being a business owner, going into entrepreneurship, a lot of people think it's an easier path. However, it comes with a lot of responsibility, a lot of work, as I already know you know that.
Mhm.
But how do you stay motivated in tough times?
First of all, God. That's not an exaggeration. I was in here not too long ago praying and crying out to God saying, Lord, this is hard. Give me some wisdom. And I got it. So having a relationship with God is so important. Um, and you have to know within yourself if it's worth it
Mm,
to keep doing it. Like, is this worth it? When the headaches come, when people steal from you, when people lie on you, when people are conniving, when you don't know what you don't know and it hurts you, when you have to learn so much information, like as a business owner, you have to learn everything. Don't everything. That is a daunting task. And so I have to say, Joshua, this is worth it. You decided to do it. And here's the thing, it's a life, it's a um I can say that this life chose me,
mm,
but I have to choose it back.
wow.
I have to. So I decided I chose to be a leader. Like I chose to be a business owner. So I did that choice. Life could have gave me the opportunity, but if I say, nah, I really don't want that, then I'm not gonna keep going. But in those tough times, one again is prayer, to having those relationships with people, knowing that it is worth it, and three is, hey, I'm doing this because I'm choosing to do this at this point in time. I chose this. I'm 3 years in. What I look like going back. Even when there was times I was literally looking into going back, I said, Josh, you chose this. You chose it. You chose it. You said yes. And that's what keeps me motivated. I mean, of course, you got all these other factors, personal pride. I mean, I'm
Mhm,
not a loser. So I'm not a failure. I may fail, but I'm not a failure. I may
mm,
lose, but I'm not a loser. That's one. I have my family with me. They looking at me, what you gonna do, Joshua? How you gonna take care of the family? Well, I'm not gonna quit now. That's a motivation. So you have tons of motivation to be able to keep moving. You have to take all of it in and you got to keep going. But when there's no one in the room, when you in that office by yourself, maybe it's late night and maybe it's early morning. I remember specifically like my first year here. Oh my gosh, I was working terribly. I mean, just so hard and by myself. And it's just like, man, do I want to keep doing it like this? And it's like, no, I have a goal, and my goal is bigger than just this moment. My goal is bigger than just me. I'm looking to be a business owner, not a solo entrepreneur. That's backwards.
right.
Why would I do that? I said I want to be a business owner, not be by myself. And that motivates me. Like I said, the goal motivates me. The what it does for my life motivates me. So again, it's all gonna be all those things that's gonna come into play, and you can pick and choose which one ever one. But me sitting here by myself, God, you told me to start this, and I started it. So I'm gonna keep going. You didn't make me a quitter. I never been a quitter in my life. I'm gonna see this through. I'm gonna see this to the end. And those are the things that motivate me. I know it's a lot, but all that stuff comes at different times. When my
Yeah.
kids are with me, they're motivating me to see dad work. They're not gonna just see me sitting around. If I'm here by myself, God, you here with me because I'm here by myself. I'm making it work. I'm doing X, Y, and Z. All right. Joshua, you know in your heart you're not a quitter. Joshua, you know in your heart when you look in the mirror and you get ready to go in the morning, you're not a loser. Every day I make money and all my needs are met and I live in surplus. Like that's what I'm telling myself. So all
Mm,
that stuff comes in different places. But if you can identify that stuff early, you will always have something to pull from.
mm. I love that. Man, that's like a basket of motivation. Like maybe you have to pull certain things at certain times. Just throughout your day. I know when you go home, you look at your kids and you're like, I'm pretty sure you like, that's why I do this.
I told you, look, go back to the basketball thing. When my son comes up and if he wants to be a part of Brownstone years down the line, I'm going to practice nepotism. But I'm going to practice it because not because it's my son or my daughter, it's because I have seen my son wash cars at 3 years old. When I was out there washing cars, he'd be right there with me. When a customer comes in, he'll be standing right there with me saying hey to the customers. So that's a motivation because they right there with me. It's like they're just right there. They by my side. If he want to take it over, he can take it over. Because I seen him put the work in, and all that motivation kicks in. I'm like, yeah, let me keep going because my son right beside me. And I'm gonna be the first image to him of what success looks like, of what it means to be a father, what it means to be a leader. And I quit midway.
Nah.
And I'm not a quitter. So how do I quit midway and I'm not a quitter and my son look at me? Or my daughter sitting there looking at me? Come on now.
Yeah. The mere fact, as you said that, I'm like, the mere fact that they're gonna have a leg up, like they're gonna have something to work for. Like they don't have to start at the bottom. You've already laid a foundation. So I think that's phenomenal, man.
Thank you. Thank God for it.
So one of our next questions is this is probably one of those questions everybody want to know, which is what is the one thing you wish you had known when you started your business?
Learn cash flow. Simple. Again, my number one goal when it comes to Brownstone is to be one of the largest on the East Coast. I did the calculations. I also looked in the long term. If you're going to be in business, you have to make the decision on how long you really plan on doing it. I made the decision. I'm in this for the long haul. And that long haul at this moment has a number. So we projected 20 years out. That was our projections. When we did our business plan, I'm looking at 20 years. Now, yes, I want to go beyond that, but my first step was let me get to 20 years. In 20 years, we project, I'll put in a car number. We would look to have over 100,000 cars. And I said, God, and mind you, I grew up poor. Like we didn't grow up, I ain't going to say poor, right? But we didn't have a lot. So I had a broke mentality majority of my life. So my relationship with money was terrible. I was always good at making money. I was terrible at keeping money and using money effectively. And when it came to business, I've always, again, wanted to be in business and had some great experiences and learned a lot of information. So I didn't come in naked. But being a business owner, learn cash flow. It is the number one thing. And that's what I prayed about. I said, God, if this is what you really want me to do, if this is what I want to take Brownstone, and let's say whenever we get to billions of dollars, I don't want to fumble that bag. What do I need to learn to be able to handle that level of success? And I heard cash flow. So what did I do? I went on Amazon and I got Cash Flow for Dummies. There's two books that I'm gonna recommend to any of your listeners, especially when starting off, because I know this is for people who just starting off. Maybe you have a 9 to 5 and you're looking to start a business, or maybe you're just starting your business and you're looking to grow. It's two books. One is The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, one of the greatest business books ever to be written. I've read it 3 times. And I skim it in between that just because of nuggets in there. But the second one is Cash Flow for Dummies, because Cash Flow for Dummies showed me the language of finance, business finance. It showed me the terminology. Technically, it's the same thing, but it's slightly different. Like I know the language, but in that language, there's terms that you need to be able to be aware of that are being used every day that you don't hear because your mind isn't equipped with those terms. So that knowledge is just passing right over you and you don't even know it. It showed me to really reflect as a business owner of how I make the decisions with my money and how that money flows throughout the business. It challenged me to think bigger about my money, because when we start talking money, like people say, you hear it all the time, I want to be a billionaire. First of all, do you know how much money that really is? The fact that you say just all willy-nilly that you want to be a billionaire tells me you don't know how much money that really is. You know what I'm
And
saying?
responsibility.
And the responsibility. So that's where this cash flow book came into play. I knew a little bit about at this point in time. I'll say I knew very, very little about cash flow. When I read that book, it opened my mind to all of this, and it's better equipping me to make better decisions, to think and look at money differently in my business. And that has been one of the best things I've ever done in my business, was buying that book. So learning cash flow, the sooner, the better you can understand and learn cash flow in your business, the better off you'll be.
Man. Ooh, that's a whole podcast by itself.
Because cash flow is extensive. Like I didn't know it was that extent. Like you know it, but you don't fully understand it. And reading that book, man, it's just section after section after section. It's just like, man, it's just so much. But it's like, but this is what I said I wanted when I want to do $1 billion. Like, I gotta learn it.
Yeah, I mean, and I think we only apply what we know from our personal experiences and our personal finances, which could be detrimental to business. And basically, we have good intentions, but our money knowledge, basically what you said is we just don't have it. It's hard to navigate in those spaces and places where the language is different, like you said. So, audience, you heard it. Get those books.
The E-Myth by Michael Gerber and Cash Flow for Dummies.
Absolutely. And I am getting that book too. One of the other things, I know we talked about family, your children, just overall, what is the legacy that you want to leave behind?
From what perspective?
From both a business and a personal perspective. It's all right. I know that's a question to make you think, man.
What is it? So it's all dependent on the eyes we view it from.
Okay.
One of the legacies is, when I look back at the end of my life, when I'm at my funeral, well, when people are at my funeral, what are they going to be saying about me? Is it going to be a small room of people, or is it going to be so big they got to get a bigger building? I think about that, because I think about the impact that I want to have on people's lives and what I want to be able to achieve. So when I die, when people are at my funeral, what are they saying? Are you smiling that I'm gone? Or are you crying? Are we going to have a good time? I want people to have a good time at my funeral. I do. But I think about that. What are they going to say about me? Joshua's an honest, open guy. He challenged me to get better. He wanted the people around him to get better. He believed in something greater than him. And he was always energetic. He was engaging. He helped me out a lot. I love just talking to him. I always gained something from him. Like, that's part of the legacy. I want to be able to leave something for my kids. Like the Bible talks about that, like a good man leaves an inheritance. Like, why would I not want to leave something for my children or for my children's children? And that's kind of what I look at when we talk about Brownstone. Like, Brownstone is a means to an end. Like, if I don't want to interject that thought, but I can leave the business to them. They cannot take it over. Once I'm dead and gone, that's their decision. I did my part, but that's a legacy. That's an opportunity for a legacy for them. And like I said, what it can provide for me to be able to do, like that is not just about making money, but we make money to do things with. Simple. Right. You make money to buy groceries. You make money to go on a trip. You make money to buy clothes. You make money to be able to do that. Can you get some of that stuff free? Yeah, you can. Right. But majority of the time you can't. but I wanted to leave a legacy of experiences. My son has experienced that. Hey, I was washing cars at 3 years old. I watched my dad do this. Like that's part of the legacy, part of the opportunities that I can provide for him, a part of the experiences that I can provide for him that he may not have had otherwise, because I didn't have a dad growing up. So instantly, my legacy for him is already better because he get to be with me. He get to see his dad work. He get to be alongside. He gets to jump on me. He gets to hang around me. That's a legacy right there, because now he's got a whole set of memories I don't even have. Him and my daughter. So it's just different parts of the legacy that we look at, and those would be my three.
Man. Yeah. I'm very interested to see, as they progress and grow up, like, man, one day I'm gonna be, I can see it like, wow, that's a little Bernie right there.
Yeah. Little Bernie. That's what they're going to say right there. Both of them.
Yeah, man. As we got our last question here. So as we get ready to close out, what advice would you give the person on whether they're on the 9 to 5 and considering this path, or whether they've already started but they're in limbo space of should I even keep going? What's this worth it? That self-talk, sometimes even that self-doubt. What advice would you give them, both in personal and business success, simultaneously working together to help get to a better success space?
Could you repeat that question and make sure I properly understand that?
I got you. So essentially, for whether it's the 9 to 5 person that's still working and desires to go the entrepreneurship route and creating a business, or the person that's already starting a business and they're like midway and they're like, should I have started this? They're kind of in that self-doubt space. Like, what advice would you give to them, both personally and from a business standpoint, to essentially stay motivated, keep going?
First thing that comes to my mind is you better have a relationship with God first. I mean, I'm serious. It sounds like a cliche statement, but the ones who really have a relationship with God know that it's beneficial to their life and their business. Period.
Absolutely.
God sees everything I don't see. He knows what I don't know. And I remember one of the things that earlier on I was reading in Proverbs, and he specifically says, your business is God's business. And I was like, God, you with me in business? I mean, I know you're with me in my life, but now I know that you're actually with me in business. That made a huge difference. Huge difference. The advice for both people are different. So if you're a 9 to 5 person and you're looking to start a business, I would say, one, of course, pray about it, right? Because if that's a move you're going to make, then there's a strategic way to do it, and ask God to give you insight into that. And I would say just go in. If I was to start over, I'm reading marketing books and I'm reading cash flow books. That way, when it's time for you to hit the ground running, you hit the ground running. If you are already in business and you're trying to stay motivated, it all just depends on kind of where you are at that starting phase. I would say just try your best to make sure your foundation is decent. From what systems that you're going to be using, what insurance is, what the tax information. That tax information is complicated. It really is. Like, it gets simpler, but it also gets complicated. But just because you have to spend that time with it, have people that you can call on. Like, I don't know everything. There's somebody that's already been through it, and having them to be a sounding board, sometimes just a vent, but also they can give you some information and to help you along making changes in your business, letting you know, okay, maybe that might not have been the best move. Okay, maybe look at it like this. So it all just depends on where you are in your business, and what your goals are. Like, you better know your goal up front in either case, you better know what your goal is up front. And can the goals shift? Yes, the goals can shift. Like the
Yeah.
business model can shift, the the products and services can shift, and that's okay. But and it's perfectly fine to have to make that pivot. But it all just depends on where you are in your business. So one, again, having a relationship with God is so important for business and personal. Having people in your corner that you can call, and if you can learn that information earlier on, then I think that you're going to have a great opportunity for success for the long haul, because you've already invested the time in to be educated on that stuff. That way, you don't have to learn as much as you can later, and it makes a big
Mm,
difference. Because later on, so the person who at a 9 to 5 looking to start a business versus the person who's in their business, their thinking isn't even the same. So if they're already in the business and now, like for me, I'm in the business and I was like, man, I realized there's even more I need to learn. Well, if I maybe would have learned one or two things earlier on, again, that marketing, that cash flow, then it takes that energy away later
yep.
on and reinvest that energy into something else. And
Yep.
it does make a big difference.
Right. Basically putting yourself in school early for business, the school of business.
Yeah, put yourself. Look, there's a reason why there's so many books, there's so many articles, there's so many podcasts, there's so many episodes, there's so many docuseries. There's so much of everything around this because it is difficult to do.
Yeah.
I mean, it is extremely difficult to do. And if this is something you want to do, that's why I go back to you better be prayed up first. Don't just jump out here. Now, some people may say that that's the thing. I don't go by that. I go by, you better be prayed up before you make this move out here because it's a real move. There is a difference between going to a 9 to 5 and clocking in. They have everything there for you. And all you got to do is know the products and services, meet the quota, and you can go home. That does not happen when you're a business owner. You are building out everything.
Mm,
You're building out those SOPs. You're building out your marketing strategy. You're building out your processes. You're building out your operations. You're building out what the employee experience will be. You're building out what the customer experience will be. All that stuff. That's a different beast. All right,
yeah.
that's a way different beast. And so the earlier you can be, my mom always said it, if you're prepared, you don't have to be afraid. And here's what I'm gonna say lastly to that in all those cases, which is the fear is the biggest thing.
Hmm.
Don't be afraid. And you will be afraid. That's the trick about it. I can only give it to you how it's been given to me, which is God was talking to Joshua in the Bible, Joshua 1, and this Joshua was about to take over as leader, and God had to tell him verbatim, do not be afraid, do not be discouraged. And every time I read that thing, I said, God, that's so powerful that you said that, but I still don't understand why you said that. And it was as simple as he would not have said it if he didn't see that it was there. He knew Joshua was afraid. He knew that there was going to be moments in the future where he was going to be discouraged because remember, they won the first battle, but lost the second one. And Joshua went back to God, was like, God, why did we lose? He got
Right.
discouraged. But God told him before he even got to the first battle, don't be discouraged. And
Hmm.
so in business, you will be afraid. It's not that you won't be afraid. You will be afraid. You will be discouraged. I remember when we got this building, I remember to this day, I would stand out in the driveway and going outside in the lot, and we right on Greenville Boulevard. And I would just look at all the traffic going by. And I would get so afraid because I'm thinking, I have never experienced this level of success before. I've never experienced this level of an opportunity before. Since I've never been here, how the heck am I going to handle this? What am I going to do? A little old me going to do with all this? And I was so afraid, Quinn. Like I've had some great success in life. I have. And even in the midst of the success that I've had, I've still been afraid. And
Wow.
I can sometimes I only think, man, what would my success look like? My success will be as vast as the ocean if I wasn't afraid. And it's not until I had to learn to be fearless. God, you told him not to be afraid. Okay. There is fear here. There's something that's making me fearful. I'm reacting in a fearful way.
Mhm.
I'm acknowledging that, but you told me to not be afraid. And to not be afraid means I choose to be fearless. And you have to choose to be fearless in your business. You have to choose to be fearless. It is not going to happen. You have to make the choice. And sometimes making that choice and choosing to be fearless means picking up the phone and calling a customer. It means calling somebody and asking them information that you know that you don't want to hear. It is doing a very difficult task that you're running away from earlier on. Those are the moments to where I have learned to be fearless. It's when you again have to have those conversations with people, when you have to deliver bad news, when you have to go down that entire to-do list. You get scared when you look at that long to-do list. Let me say, I would get scared looking at this to-do list, and when we get afraid, we get stuck. We stay still. Now there's no
Right.
movement, and even if you have movement, you're not progressing. So I'm learning and continually implementing choosing to be fearless, and I am seeing the results of that. So for in either that person 9 to 5 looking to start, or you're already in your business, choose to be fearless. It takes fearlessness to learn information. That's why people don't read, because they're afraid. Maybe they don't know how to read. That's a different topic, different topic. But if you know how to read, the only reason you're not reading is because you're afraid.
Mm.
You're afraid to accept that responsibility. You're afraid to know that you now know you don't know something. You're afraid to be exposed to something that is difficult to grasp. So like just choose to be fearless. Just choose to be fearless, and it makes the biggest difference. Not saying fear is not there, but
Right.
you're just making the choice to be fearless.
Right. I mean, that was packed. I mean, you've been in the book of Proverbs for a while.
Well, yeah, it's one of my favorites, man. Like whenever I really want to there's two. If I'm just like reading just to read and consume, it's Proverbs and Psalms.
Mm.
Proverbs and
I
Psalms every day.
I hope our audience really catches that. God first and operating in biblical principles in both personal and business.
I can give a great example of that biblical principle thing.
Okay.
Perfect example I had. So I remember, I was started off by myself, and people would help periodically, but it wasn't like an employee. And I was like,
Mhm.
man, I need to hire an employee. Because I was telling myself, I need to hire an employee. And it was true. I wanted to hire an employee. And I knew it at some point in time it was gonna come. But I read when Jesus calls his first disciple. So this is when he's talking to Peter, James, and John. He's like, so the situation is Jesus was in the midst of starting his ministry. He'd already started. He'd already been speaking and giving the word. So he goes to the shore. He asks him, can he use his boat, because the crowds was so big that he couldn't stand with them no longer. So he had to get in a boat to separate them so they won't overtake him. And then he proceeds to say, can I get your boat? He says yes. And then he gets in the boat. He preaches the word. And afterwards, he says, all right, well, go back out, because you let me use the boat. Go back out there and cast your nets to get some fish. So he's like, well, because you told me to do it, I'll do it. So he goes out there and catches the fish. And then we know he comes back. They catch a fish, a catch so big that it almost sank both boats.
Yeah.
And then he got off the boat, ran to the shore, and said, Lord, please forgive me. And then Peter became his first disciple, right?
Right.
And I looked at that, I said, well, what does this even mean? And God had to show me. He said, think about it, Joshua. Jesus, he reached a point in his business that he no longer can be excellent by himself,
Mm. Wow.
because he was doing so much good work. The word says Jesus was doing so much good work that crowds of people came. So he no longer could handle the crowds by himself. He had to find a way to separate himself and then bring people in to be able to help him carry the load. But the key word is that he did good work up until that point. So this is when God told me a biblical principle, Joshua, you do not need an employee for real until you can no longer do good work by yourself.
Mm.
And when I could no longer do good work, when my excellence level dropped, I then hired somebody. And that was freeing for me because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I want to build the business. I know I'm going to have to hire employees, X, Y, and Z. You know, when do I do this move? I'm nervous about doing the move. And then when he gave me that, my mind was at so much peace. And I said, Joshua, just work until you can work by yourself until you can no longer do it in excellence. And when you can no longer do it in excellence, that is when you know for sure when you actually need to hire an employee. And that's what I did. And it made the biggest difference. Took the stress off, took the worry off. It told me, okay, Joshua, you can actually keep going longer by yourself right now. But you also need to be aware of when your level drops. And I did. I noticed it. I was like, dang, I was late on that. Dang, I didn't do that in time. Dang, I didn't do this. Dang, I was kind of, all right, there it go, Joshua. Now it's time to bring somebody on. And the biblical principle was so powerful to me.
Man, that was powerful, right? I mean, that you summed it up right there. You summed it up. That was the perfect example. Wow. This has been, all I can say is a phenomenal episode. As being the first episode, I am thankful to you, man, for like just gracing us with your presence, your wealth of knowledge, and what God has imparted in you to be able to share to people and hopefully encourage, motivate, impact, influence them to really go out and go after that thing they want to do.
And last thing I'll say, you mentioned it quickly, is it's okay to make money, y'all. It took me a long time to understand this. And I always wanted to make money. I always been making money. But now in my 30s, I'm finally understanding, Joshua, it's okay as a believer to make a lot of money.
Yes. Thank you. That is, man, you said a mouthful right then.
Okay.
It is.
And I can tell you the verse that changed my heart about it. Because, you know, people always go to church and they always talk about the money and blah, blah, blah. All right. I was in the time of my life. I said, God, this just ain't working. I don't like it. And I said, I don't even know what to do no more about it. You know, just financially, it was just terrible. And then I said, God, this ain't working. Went to church, heard the sermon. He said, it's not more money you need. It's more money information. Huh? All right. I read Proverbs. So I was in Proverbs again, and I came across Proverbs 13 and 11. And it says that dishonest money dwindles, but he who gathers money little by little makes it grow. This was the first time in the Bible for me that I saw him actually talking about making money. First time. And I said, okay, God, I got it now. And it was a shift because I thought I needed a lot of money. He said, no, you don't need a lot of money. Just a little bit at a time. So to your original question, one of your questions, you said, what does that look like personally and professionally? How you can have success financially, little by little. You're going to make it grow. You could do, I've done more with $20 than most people do with $100.
Wow.
Because I understand little by little, we're going to make it grow. If I save $20 a week, I've saved $100, right?
Right.
People go a whole month and don't even save that.
True.
Because they think I don't have enough to be able to keep money. No. What's $10? We forsake that. So what I did when I took that information, again, biblical principle, when I took that information, I said, okay, God, you said little by little. Let me start off small. I started off with $2. When I started saving, it was $2.34 to be exact, because I was going to Chick-fil-A a lot and I love their fries. But I said, look, I love fries, but I'm not giving up fries. So instead of eating fries 5 times out the week, I'm just going to eat fries maybe 2 or 3 times out the week. And then because I already showed I was willing to spend the money beforehand, I'm just going to move that money over to an account, $2.34. I'm so serious. And then I looked into an account one time and I was like, man, where does money come from? That's what I said. I looked at the account. I was like, where does money come from? And then I just started scrolling the transactions, $2.34, $2.34. And it was the easiest money I ever kept.
Wow.
Didn't even feel it. Didn't even think about it. But I was already spending the money, but didn't even think about it. I said, God, your word is real. So in the same way of my business, like there's other levels that God showed me to take that, because eventually that transformed into doing 20%, especially when it comes to keeping money, like 20%. This came from um, Joseph when he was in the Bible, and he had the dream in the palace with the Pharaoh, and he said you're gonna have 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. I was like, God, how he store up so much for 7 years? And it says that he saved 1/5 of everything he got. That's 20%. Then I started doing 20%. It was over at that point in time. Over. It started skyrocketing. I said, yo, this is crazy. So the same thing I applied in my personal life, I applied in my business. Okay. How can I save just a little bit? Even if it's $100, can I save $100 a week? Can I get to 20%? I started building that muscle up, and it makes a
Right.
huge difference. So uh biblical principles still work, man. And that was the first time in my life, Proverbs 13:11, when I really saw God was like, it's okay to make money. And it's okay to make money in business. And it's okay to make money in business and in your life as a believer. And it changed my life.
Right. So you have heard a lot of, I would love to say, I would say golden nuggets from Mr. Burney, where you can actually take some of this stuff and apply it and learn from his wealth of knowledge and wisdom he's learned, applying biblical principles and definitely making sure God is always in the midst of his business. Um, what are your final thoughts, Mr. Burney? And then also share, how can our audience reach you after this podcast? Where can they find you on social media, support your business?
So I'll start with that part first. I mean, you can find me on social media, of course, on Facebook, Instagram at just_Joshua B. I like to keep it simple. Same thing on YouTube. You can find me on YouTube as well. And my email address, if you ever have questions or anything, you can actually reach me at info@brownstonerental.com. That's info@brownstonerental.com. And my final thoughts are, if it was easy, everyone would be able to do it. And if you are looking to start a business, or if you're already in your business, the trials and the tribulations that you may face, they're there for a reason to make you better. And if you can change your perspective on it, yes, it's going to be tiresome. Yes, it's going to make you angry and frustrated, sad, anxious, depressed, and all those feelings. But at some point in time, if you can change your mind to say, this is an opportunity for me to learn something, to grow, so that way you don't have to go through this again, it's going to be so much better. Keep the faith, choose to be fearless, and everything else will work out as you continually have a plan and let it organically grow.
Absolutely. Mr. Burney, again, thank you for gracing us with your presence today and sharing your wealth of knowledge. Um, this has been an awesome episode. As our first episode, we've hit we've actually crossed the first milestone,
Yeah.
and we thank you for that, man. Um,
But thank you for it.
Absolutely. Well, everyone, you've tuned in to another episode of Motivate to Millions podcast. Like, subscribe, and follow for more. Peace.